And we are recording.
Woohoo!
I don't know about you, Millie, but this is just not getting old. Maybe it will when we've done
Well,
700
yeah. Well,
episodes, but
considering this is episode 2, I think we're a ways away yet from calling it old. 3? Is it 3? Well, okay, there
three.
you go. Still, not many.
Yes,
Little
yes, yes,
little
yes.
bitty number of episodes, just a couple.
But I don't know. I just think it's such a beautiful combination, from my perspective, anyways, of valuable content, because I believe it is,
Hmm.
but not a lot of stress or strain on us to prepare for it because we're talking about the stuff we know, right?
Yes,
So,
yes. And that's what I
right?
love about doing this, because this is the kind of thing that you and I can both talk about all day, every day, and do to some extent.
Exactly.
So, right, that and just being able to share what we do and how we think and how we work with people in a way that is calm and relaxed and fun is
Yeah.
that's a gift. I love it.
Yeah. I love it. And you know what? That's just a bonus piece of content for this episode because this was not part of the theme. But I think that's so important to have someone you can have these conversations with.
Yeah.
The This was amazing. Someone who's going to cheer on your successes and not minimize them, and who's going to understand when that hit the fan, it
Yep.
wasn't fun,
Yep.
scary AF, right? And that and doesn't want to minimize that or say, oh, it'll get better either, right? That you got to
Don't
honor
worry, you're
the
putting a
journey.
little head over it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, if someone said that, I
Ooh,
swear
mental
my
note, if I
nails,
really want to tick you off one of these days.
it's like my nails literally got longer. I was like, pretty little head. Like,
Oh my.
okay, to the viewers watching, yes, it's just me and Millie hanging out again. Welcome to the New Path podcast, which is all about empowering women because been there, done that. Like, I think
Yeah.
we've both identified we've had our challenging times, our times when we probably would have referred to ourselves with a whole bunch of other words, not empowered. But
Yeah.
now we can look back, we can share what worked, we can make suggestions, we can make recommendations, and we can just have a whole lot of fun doing it. So my name is Sandi Boucher, Mishko Paganan Quain Adishnakas Mundodem. I'm Red Thunderbolt Woman of the Loon Clan, a proud member of Seine River First Nation in Treaty 3 territory in Northern Ontario. And I have this simple assignment or mission of bringing a country together. I'm all about Canadian reconciliation, for getting Indigenous and non Indigenous first just to talk and to
Yeah.
have conversations in safe spaces that allow you to say, I don't understand. And could you explain that to me without anyone being attacked? So that's what I do when I'm not hanging out with my friend Millie. So, Millie, over to you to explain who you
Well,
are.
I will follow up that most impressive and important introduction as to who you are and what you do by saying, "Hi, I'm Millie Gormley. I am a middle-aged white chick from Thunder Bay." Uh, my project in this life is to help women get their financial lives together so that they can go out and fulfill their mission while being calm and comfortable and confident that the financial piece is being taken care of. I'm a musician, an actor, a cook. I appreciate a nice glass of wine at the end of the day with my husband and my cat, not necessarily in that order. And I am most happy to be back here having a chat with Sandi. We are the grizzled veterans of the gender wars. We have wisdom.
We are. We are. And you know what? Listening to your intro. So, full disclosure, if you haven't seen other episodes, Millie is my financial advisor. So, this is like directly on point for the two of us. But I just got back from London, Ontario, where I went to do an event. I literally got home at midnight last night. So, if I seem a little airheadish,
A little
that
more
would
than
be
usual,
why.
perhaps.
Yeah, just I'm here, honest. But I can think of so many business trips that I went on, and you're going to go on the trip because you're earning money. You have to
Yeah.
do that. But there were times where I might have had $100 in my bank account
Hmm.
in my early days, thinking, please don't let me miss a flight. Please let the hotel be
Yeah.
okay because if anything happens,
Zero margin
I'm
for error.
right,
You're screwed.
right.
Yeah.
And I noticed this trip when I was planning that, and that's something we can talk on in a future episode. Be careful the habits or mindsets that you get into.
Yes.
Because as I was preparing for this trip, it was almost like that panic mode wanted to start again. And it was like, check the bank account, check the credit cards. Okay, the fact that I can say credit cards
Mm-hmm.
with an S, different story.
Yeah.
And knowing that all of them, that there was money in the bank account and the cards were clear, I'm good. And to be able to be in the airport and just don't care, right? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to make my flight. I'm not going to waste money. I've worked too
Yes.
hard for it to waste it.
Yes.
But if something happened, I'm going to be okay. And we touched on that last
Yeah.
week. Because for people, if you're just tuning into this episode, we are talking about the new PATH acronym. So the word
Mm-hmm.
PATH, PATH, I really believe these are like 4 tools that if you use them on a regular basis, it's going to get you to that empowered stage. So last week we talked about patience, which if you haven't seen the video, or the last episode, I should say. I always say last
Yeah.
week. We're foreshadowing again.
Yes, perhaps, but it was
Downhill.
more about patience, or it was patience or the lack thereof in some cases,
100%, which what
right?
I was saying. If you haven't seen the last episode, you got to go watch it because it's kind of hilarious. Millie and I talking about patience.
Oh yeah. If anyone who
But
knows this in the real world knows that's not something where neither of us are known for per se.
but
But
something we had to learn
yes.
on this journey, even though I think we both identified hardest lesson either of us came across, and it wasn't fun. And if we could have just sheer willpower, we would have moved
Oh
mountains,
man, yeah,
right?
exactly. If I could have chewed through phases of my life just on sheer spite alone,
Well,
absolutely.
I was thinking of your back surgeries, and
Yeah,
let's get clear here, not one, two.
too.
So
Yeah.
taking the time in the first one, okay, maybe not as much time as you should have.
Yeah, huh,
And then
exactly.
getting to that second one and just talk about a hard lesson. And for me, it what is that saying? That we believe that if you don't learn the lesson, then you're doomed to keep
Your
doing
body,
what
yes, if
you
you
do.
yeah, those who
Um,
don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, I think is
yeah.
the
Well,
popular version of that.
my history with the word cash flow um, took some learning and
Yep.
some setting stubborn aside, and maybe you really don't need to buy that, Sandy. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
But
that
we talked about patience. Let's talk
yeah.
about what's our next letter in the path.
Before we jump in, I did want to acknowledge the magic of pre-recording because
Ah,
both, as you
yes.
can well imagine, Millie and I both have insane schedules. So we do these when we can do these. We don't want it to be a stress in our lives. We want to be able to enjoy it as
Yep.
well as put out quality content. So usually we talk about your reaction to the last episode, and I had promised in the last episode that we were going to talk about Millie's vacation the next time you saw us,
But I
neither of
haven't
which has
actually gone
happened.
on it yet.
Yeah, so
So,
at the time of this recording, the second episode has not been released yet. We're now shooting the third. Maybe that's why you thought too.
yes.
We will
Yeah.
do all of that stuff when we can,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
rather than just fake it. So
Now,
we're
having
not
said
ignoring
that,
that.
yeah, we are pre-recording, but we're not really doing a ton of editing. Like we're not
No,
this is as good as we sound, guys. Like we
that,
don't
that,
we haven't buffed this up and cut out all the ums and the ahs because for one, we don't have the time or the patience to do that. And for another, we do want this to be a record of an actual conversation. So
yeah, totally
that's the
authentic.
vibe we're going for here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can acknowledge that in the very first episode, I was so excited. Like, I was talking at the same time as you so many times, it wasn't even funny. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, Sandy, let's not do that just for the sake of the listeners. But
Yeah, I'm bad for
yeah,
that too. I gotta admit that.
that's, you know what? That's enthusiasm. That's passion.
Yes.
That's who we are.
We'll be mindful of each
Yes,
other's
yes.
audio space. Okay.
All right. Okay, back to the PATH acronym, as Millie said. So the P was for patience. I highly suggest you watch that episode or listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. This one we're going to love. The A is for action.
hmm
And I think that's Millie and I, neither of us are scared of hard work. If
Nope.
it takes determination or rolling up your sleeves, I don't even bother wearing sleeves anymore because I'm just going
You're
to
just trying to
dive
show
right
off your
in.
tattoo, though.
Oh, of course. Wrong side. Wrong side.
Right
There it
there,
is.
you go.
Yes, yes. Um, which is always fun at a corporate event. Just throwing that out
Mhm.
there. So I am going to kick it over to you first, Millie. So
Okay.
action is our theme for today. Where did your mind go, or what came to mind for you?
Well, yeah, for me, action is, about doing the things, fulfilling the tasks, checking off the tick boxes, making the lists, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I am in a coaching situation with a company called Commit Action. So all I do every week is I have a call with my coach. We decide what are the actions you did last week? What were the results? Are you happy with it? What do we need to change? What are the actions you need to do for this week? And it's very much a here's your weekly kick in the butt to give you things to do and to make sure that you do them. So, throughout the week he'll send me an email or a text saying, so did you do the thing you said you were going to do? And I have to be like, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't, and thanks for the reminder, or no, I did it, go away, I'll do it. Right. I don't like being negged. But yeah, so for me, action is something that is I don't know if it comes natural necessarily, but it's certainly something that I feel comfortable doing after many years of if I don't do the things, nothing will happen. And this is probably one of the main differences between you and I as self-employed slash entrepreneurial type people and people whose job will send them a paycheck. My line
Yeah.
for when I was working at the bank, not to say anything bad about the bank because it was what I needed to be and where I needed to be at the time, and there's some good people there. But I said the bank gave me a paycheck every 2 weeks, whether I deserved it or not. It does
Yeah.
not work that way when you're self-employed. So, the idea of taking action is very much in the forefront of my mind, which also brings to mind this whole concept of manifestation, right?
Ah,
Which to me is kind of the opposite of action because manifesting is the thinking about the thing. The action is the doing of the thing, but you do need both. And it took me a long time to realize that you do need both. That action without any kind of a direction gets you nowhere just as much as thinking about something without doing anything gets you nowhere.
that reminds me of Tony Robbins, the garden analogy. If you're standing in the garden and I don't want there to be any weeds. I don't want there to be any weeds. I don't want, and that's all you do. You're
Yeah.
losing your garden, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not just manifesting. What is that quote I heard? Use the law of action, not the law of attraction.
Mm,
Right? So, and I honestly believe, like you just said, it's action that attracts and causes the manifestation,
yeah.
right? That I believe in manifestation huge just because it keeps happening in my life.
Yep.
But I believe in once a day. We've talked about this before in my little video, my manifestation video. So every
Yeah.
morning I
Yeah.
watch it, what I want to achieve. And then, and if you ever watched The Secret, the movie, or read the book or whatever,
Right.
what they say
All
is
of those. Yeah. Because
you
that was
put
that
in
was the
the
thing, right?
order. Yeah, you
Yeah.
put in the order and then forget about it. And that's literally what I do. Like, creator, this is where I want to end up. Now I have to go work because something's going to happen that's going to get me there. But if I'm just sitting around waiting for it, I'm not going anywhere. I
Yes.
have to prepare. Like, I want to be the person that is in a place to enjoy those things. For example, I just came back from my first southern vacation to Cancun.
Yes.
I've wanted to do that since I was 12 years old. Could I have done that earlier on in my career? Probably. It would have meant giving up events, probably
Mhm.
not paying bills, and
Mm,
dealing with all of that horrible stress and consequences when I came back.
right.
Or I took the actions, built the business, built the foundation so that when I did go, it didn't cause any of that. So I had to become the person who could enjoy that manifestation. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes,
Right?
absolutely. I like the whole when The Secret came out and
Yeah.
everything was about manifestation, just manifest and believe and the universe will bring things to you. I always hugely struggled with that concept, probably because I was raised in a very no nonsense kind of straightforward Protestant work ethic.
Yeah.
Those stones aren't going to pick themselves, those cows aren't going to milk themselves
Yeah.
kind of childhood. And so the idea of and at the same time, I was also really raised in a very Christian religious environment where we were supposed to be praying all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
prayer was the way to make things happen. And I never saw prayer as something that, forgive me for anyone who is Christian who is going to be offended by this, but for me, I never saw that prayer worked in that sense of if I prayed for something, it would come to me or I would get it
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And some would say that's a pretty immature way of looking at faith, and perhaps it was, but I was, in fact, a child at the time, so that's the
Yeah. I
understanding
think
I had.
now I look at praying as manifesting. But
I could
again,
see
that
how it
it,
could be, yeah.
yeah, but it's part of the package. I guess even more, I believe that what I'm doing now gets me what I have now.
Hmm.
And if I want different or more, I have to do something different or more. Right. So it's not just asking. I am a huge, this is not surprising, Millie, in any way, shape, or form.
All right.
So I have always been the person that is thrilled with the unknowns. Like
Mm,
my life has changed so many times because I turned on a computer or opened an email.
yeah.
And it was this amazing opportunity. So to me, that's the manifesting. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't built a career and had a website
You
and
had the
upped my
infrastructure to.
education
Yeah.
100%. That
Yeah.
that gift that comes, the manifesting, is because you've laid that groundwork for it, right?
Hmm.
The
And then
one
do
thing
we
I,
draw.
I'm
Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead. No,
Well, I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say, and I know you're going to jump all over this,
Uh-huh.
uh, because I think we've had this conversation before the podcast existed. Uh, there is a huge difference between taking action to advance whatever you want to do and being busy.
Yes,
And I
1,000%.
have met so many brand new entrepreneurs that have the most organized filing cabinet
Mhm.
or the most beautiful office. And it's like, did that earn you any money? Like,
That's the
seriously?
thing, right?
Right? Like
It's
what the stuff you're doing, is it like the term they always use, is it the needle moving stuff? Like, is this
right.
gonna make a difference? When back to the fear state I was in when I first started my business and afraid of ending up living in my car. Every single time. Now that fear can be like overwhelming and just freeze you in your tracks.
Mhm.
And when it would hit, and I don't know where I got this, I'm assuming it's something I read or a video I saw at some point. Just thank creator I saw it. But when it would get absolutely overwhelming, like, oh my God, I am going to starve to death, I am going to end up living in my car, I
When the
would think,
panic has taken
okay,
over your brain,
yeah.
yeah.
So I would think, what, do one more thing. I have to do one thing. So I would
Mhm.
send one email to one more potential customer, or I would send out one more email to my list, or I would post one more product on my web page, my Facebook page, or add one more product to my website and advertise it. I would do, like, reach out one more time. And
Mhm.
every single time someone came back with, "Oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more."
Yeah, that
Right?
is
So
fascinating, isn't it?
if I had gone and organized my files, I'd
Mhm.
be working for someone else right now.
Well, now you have someone
Right?
else working for you to organize your files for you, which is way better.
I have 4 staff people now. So, um, yeah, it's just what the, and now I got to tell you this story just because it's true and it's funny
Okay.
and it's so me. So again, in those absolute states of panic, I would do that one more, whatever it was. And if that didn't take it away, I am not kidding. I would literally walk down the hallway of my apartment into the bathroom and I would flush the toilet. And people always like, why in the world would you do that?
I
Because
totally understand why you would do that.
I was raised in a house that didn't have running water. And by doing that, it reminded me I already had more than my parents ever had.
Yeah.
So quit worrying about what I don't have, count your
Yes.
blessings, and get back to work.
That
Right.
gratitude piece is such an
100%.
important part because if you're in
100%.
a place where you can't be grateful for what you have, you're not thinking clearly,
Yep.
right? If we are legitimately looking around us and thinking our lives suck and things are terrible and it's never going to get better, if that's the place we're in, we're not capable of making a good decision and doing something that is going to move that needle forward. You've got to get into a place where you can appreciate where you are, like get that. And as I'm saying to clients all the time, first thing we got to do is get clear on what the situation actually is. And
Yep.
most of the time, it's not nearly as bad as your monkey brain is making you think it is. So just first, everybody calm down. Let's get clear on what the deal is. Let's be grateful for what we have and what we are capable of doing, and then we can move forward.
Yeah. It's not about controlling everything, it's what is in your control.
Right.
And I was going to make a point and I totally forgot what the point was. That's okay. Welcome. I
It'll come
told
back.
you I'm tired. That is going to happen. But yeah, and oh, I know what it was. So you
All
were
right.
talking about your coaching and the checking in and
Yeah.
having to do the things. So I use Asana, which is like a
Okay.
task management system.
Yeah.
And there are certain things I do every single morning because I think when it comes to action,
Hmm.
you have to take action to like bring in revenue. You also have to take action to feed your skill set. So
Yes.
I am constantly learning. There are certain Brendan Burchard and Ed Milet are the two that I follow right now, and Ed puts out a podcast once a week. Brendan Burchard, I listen to his daily fire message every morning, and often, if especially if like this morning, it's like a lower energy kind of morning listening to them and it's so inspiring and it's like okay, I'm not going to have a high energy day. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I can't have a productive day. That doesn't mean
Exactly.
I can't answer the most important emails in a concise, professional, polite way that is going to continue whatever journey is happening with that person.
Hmm.
Because as we know, you know as well as I do, it's building a relationship. It's
Hmm.
rarely one email, we just want to hire you. And if I do get those emails, but that's because true story, the London event I just did, and I didn't even know this. The woman that hired me, the director of London Health Sciences Center that hired
Uh-huh.
me, went up to the microphone and introduced me and shared with the audience how she had been following my blog post for 5 years.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
why I was there. And that's that. It
Okay.
seemed right, like a manifesting out of the blue. I got this invite, but it wasn't. It
No,
was
it was
because of
5
that
years of hard
groundwork,
work. Yep.
right? And that,
Yep.
oh, I love that you pointed that out. Action does not, back to patience for a second,
Right.
action does not necessarily mean instant gratification.
Hmm.
Like I
Which,
put out 5 years of blog posts to get that amazing event.
yeah.
Now, I wouldn't be able to do it if it had to do 5 years to get every event. Obviously,
Well,
I've done
no.
events before then. But I mean, if there's one thing, that consistency, that doing things every day,
Yeah.
that it's people think that you have to take some big action. Well, if you think about walking across the room, as the metaphor I always use, you can take one huge step and
Mhm.
then you probably hurt yourself and you're going to stop for a while and
Land
heal.
flat in your face.
Or,
Yep.
right, or you take little baby steps every single day. You're getting across, it's the tortoise and the hare, right? You're getting
Yeah.
across the room faster. So, yes, I'm high energy and action oriented, but there are things like writing a blog post every single day that
Mhm.
I have done for 15 years. Now, I do
Mhm.
it because I love it. I didn't do
Yeah.
it because I want to make money off this. No, I wanted to feed the people that were following me, right? With these
Right. Well,
inspiration, but
and that's where we bring in the concept of alignment, right?
yeah,
Because if you weren't aligned with writing a blog post every day, there's no way in hell you'd be able to maintain that for 15 years just on
100%.
sheer will and stubbornness, right? That's you've got to be finding those activities that you can do consistently
Yep.
with joy in your heart and a smile on your face. And
You know
when
what?
you figure out what
Yeah.
that is, that's when you're cooking with gas.
You know what that reminds me of? I think that was episode 1 where you said we are going to share what works for us and what doesn't, and it may or may not work for you. Because,
100%.
like,
Yeah.
I am a writer first. I may be known for my public speaking, but I am most definitely a writer first. I've been saying for years it would be easier for me to give up breathing than it would be writing. Like, I
Mhm.
write every single day. The only debate is whether I'm releasing it or not, right? So for other people, there are probably people that just panicked listening, saying, she writes a blog post every day. And I used to actually
That's
do
making me a
7
little
days a
twitchy.
week,
Seems like a lot of
right?
work.
I used to do 7 days a week, right? Like I
Yeah,
literally Saturday and Sunday, and now it's 5 days a week. But I do that because I would be writing anyways.
anyway.
That is
Yeah,
literally my second nature. In the same way that I release videos, because I love shooting the videos. It's fun.
yeah.
I enjoy it. What can I think of that I wouldn't do that other people do? Cold calls.
Oh god. Okay, but no. Okay, so I started off I mean, my industry is famous for starting people off with cold calls. Here's the phone book, there's your potential client list, go. And I'm sorry, but if you tell me that you love doing cold calls, I'm going to self-diagnose you as some kind of a sociopath and really question your integrity by telling me such a blatant lie or your sanity if you genuinely believe it, because
Yeah,
cold calling is nobody's
it's
fun way to
soul
spend
crushing.
time. It's soul crushing, absolutely. So,
Okay,
yeah,
so
no,
here,
that doesn't
yeah.
even count.
Well, you know what? Here's a fun thing though, and now I'm going way out on the limb, and you may think I'm nuts.
Alright?
But so
Wouldn't be
way
the
back
first time.
when, it's called Wednesday. But honestly think that all women, maybe all people,
Mhm.
at some point in their lives should have sold Mary Kay cosmetics.
Ooh,
I will explain why.
please do.
Because, right? So I did for years. We had a Monday night success meeting where we all got together to inspire each other and talk about new products and talk about the challenges. So, kind of what you and I are doing right now,
Right.
really supporting each other, really cheering each other on. And of course, you got to find customers as well. So, one of the, I will never forget this exercise. They handed us this sheet of paper, your regular 8.5 by 11, and it
Yep.
had 50 little circles on it, like the kind you put a check mark in or whatever.
Okay.
You're going to
Well,
fill
ticky
something
box,
in a
yeah.
circle. So the title on the page was 50 no's.
Oof.
So the
Yeah.
assignment was call, like, how many people,
Mhm.
and get 50 people to say no, they don't want to buy something or they don't want to see your product.
Yeah.
You actually end up being upset if they book to see the product, right? Which is the point. Like,
Yeah.
if you did that many calls, you're going to end up with bookings, right? But it was impossible to do the 50 and not get a booking, which we quickly understood. But
Well,
it made it
yeah.
trying to get to that end. But it took you, it stopped you from focusing on how crappy those no's are.
Yes. Yeah, 'cause you
So
got a sense of accomplishment. That's one less that I have to get through before I run into that person who's going to be the perfect fit.
yeah, and you know what I just realized?
What's that?
How did this not pop into my head before just now? We were just talking about the law of attraction and
Yeah, yeah.
manifesting or whatever. So I've been in business for 15 years, and up until my salesperson is just about to start a brand new sales
Like
position.
an actual dedicated person selling you
Yeah,
for you?
yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting.
But for
Oh,
15 years, I have not done any kind of reaching out to sell. They have always called me.
Okay. This is
I
a
have
this is
put
a huge switch for you then. Yes.
So I have put out to my list, here's the new products I have. Let me know if you're interested. And that is as close as I got to marketing or cold calling or whatever. I
Right.
have never followed up with past customers. I know that makes me a really crappy business person,
Oh,
which is part of what she's going to be doing because I've realized I told my brother's in business as well.
yeah.
And when I told him that, he was like,
Right. Yeah.
that's going
It's
to
you,
work
you get
really well for you.
right. You get kind of quizzical dog, and you tilt your head, and you go, "Huh?
Yeah.
How? How is it
So
possible that you've been in business this long and you've never followed up with previous customers?"
So talk about
Okay.
relationship building that they are still reaching out to me to
Yes.
say, what do you have going on now?
It's
Right?
absolutely a
Uh,
testament to who you are that people keep coming back without you having to nag with them. Absolutely.
100%. Right. So this novel idea of having someone follow up, and she's also going to be, so for example, London Health Sciences Center is a hospital. I obviously have things that really support that type of industry. So
Sure.
she will be reaching out to other hospitals. Right.
Absolutely. Oh my
So
God.
that's her. I don't have
Yes.
time to do that. That's also back to action,
Mhm.
not an action I want to be taking. Right?
Okay,
That's
there you
not my
go.
forte, not my joy. She actually loves it. Kind of like the house cleaner I used to have who
Yeah.
really loved dusting and cleaning. And I was like,
Good for
okay.
her.
Yeah, it was like
She
I
found an action that was aligned with
and
her
she
purpose, her
loved it.
personality,
I
herself.
had no, it's like she was excited to show me she had dusted the top of the picture frames. I didn't have the heart to
I
say I could care
love
two
that.
beans, but
But it's
she loved
nice
it.
to
And
that's
yeah,
nice though,
so I didn't feel guilty about hiring a cleaner because she was obviously having so much fun doing it.
right?
But it's not anything, I don't care how gorgeous my home is. That is never, that's right up there with cooking for me. Never going to be a joy. Not that. No, never an action I'm
Yeah.
taking. Skip the dishes. Right? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because it's not aligned with you. I think that that concept is something I've come to really have a lot more belief in necessarily than manifesting, because just like thinking about something and willing it into being is not the same thing as finding things you can do that are comfortable for you to do that might not be comfortable for somebody else. There's plenty of people who would not feel at all comfortable getting in front of a microphone or getting in front of a camera like this and having a conversation like this. You know,
100%.
tons
They
of them.
also don't realize, and that's where you got to be careful of the barriers. And I remembered what I was going
Yeah.
to say earlier. It was about your negative mindset comment.
Yeah.
Like you can make videos where your face never appears on screen.
Yeah.
Like I've seen videos where people are beading something. They're showing you how to bead. You see their
Mhm.
hands, the needle and the beads. Or
Mhm.
you could be showing diagrams or words on the screen. So that's where you got to be careful when you're so quick to say, well, I could never do that. Well, you
Right.
could never do that version,
Right.
but are you sure you couldn't do that? And what I was going to say when you were talking about negative mindset,
Mm.
woe is me, this is never going to work. People don't want to give me an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. When you have that mindset, you have blinders on. So
100%.
you don't even realize that person that's sitting next to you in the restaurant who was talking
Mhm.
about, wow, I could really wish I could find a consultant is your opportunity. But
Yeah.
because you're in so much of your gloom and doom, like now I just laugh at myself because in the beginning, I have to go to networking events and I have to talk about my business and tell people what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now I run into people and they're telling me what they're doing, and it's like, holy moly, that's the kind of work I do, blah, blah, blah. And it just naturally happens, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, because you're open to, in my opinion, open to who creator sends you. And that's to me where
Yeah.
the manifesting comes in. I don't know who's going to show
Yes.
up at the door,
Yeah.
but I am now open to receiving how this might fit in where I want to end up. Right.
And that's
In the
probably
same way, our
yeah.
friendship,
Yeah,
right?
for
We were
sure.
friends. And like I mentioned before, with the earthquake of a financial situation I had going on for years, we maintained
There
the
was some drama.
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah.
We maintained the friendship, and that was always. And I even had other financial planners at different times,
Oh,
but
and I
didn't
love
work.
you anyway.
Didn't work, and but it was always okay. Now I'm in a place
Yeah.
to take. I don't want to say take advantage of, but this opportunity is sitting there, right? And I'm now in a place where this works, right?
Yes, where it
So
makes sense, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And maybe that's a better way to look at the whole concept of manifestation, is not trying to will something into being, but as being open to what comes,
Yeah,
you know.
100%.
So
Yeah. And so I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but
that's what we do,
my
honey.
well, and another part of being women or empowered women,
Mm,
relationships, and maybe you want to have an intimate relationship in your life.
mhm.
That person that's your person. And my mom honestly believed, and what she used to always say is, if you're looking for that person that you want in your life, and they're not there,
Mhm.
that's because you're not yet the person they need. So
Ooh,
instead of focusing on finding them, you have to focus on growing and healing and becoming who's going to be the amazing partner for that amazing person you're envisioning. And while you're doing that, they're actually off doing the same thing. And
oh,
when both of you have done your work, that's when you'll find each other.
that's
So
lovely.
so to me, that's the same thing with the manifesting I've seen happen in my career and my business. That
Mhm.
yes, all of those things I wanted to happen happened, but it was because I was busy building the
You were
foundation that would allow me to enjoy those things,
Yeah,
right?
no, I do believe that, and that's I think certainly in my own career as well. I've been doing, financial services, financial planning for 18 years, and
Mhm.
it's been a series of steps and plateaus and steps and plateaus. As
Yeah,
God knows, it's not been a smooth a smooth curve on any levels. I've
yeah,
had to start over from scratch like 4 times, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, and I find that you kinda get to a point where you feel like you're a little bit stuck. You feel like you want something more, but you're not sure what it is, and then you just I think the lesson I finally learned in my advanced old age is that's the moment when it's time to kind of just sit back and look around and say, "Okay, what should I be trying to get from this? What is the lesson I need to learn here? Where is the opportunity? Who is the next person I should be talking to?" And that's when the big shifts happen, is
yeah,
when you actually just sit back and say, "Okay, I've done really well. I'm very happy with what I've done up to this point so far, and I want to move ahead, move up.
yeah,
Now it's time to sit back and observe and just
yeah.
be open."
You have to take action. If you want to move, that requires action, right?
Yes, but
And
you have
the
to know what the right action is. That's the
right?
other
Or
thing too.
well, and the action might be finding out what the action is,
Yes, that's true
right?
too. Yep.
Right? Reaching out to someone. Why we think we have to do it all on our own is totally beyond me.
Mhm.
And in fact, if you're doing it on your own, you're doing it wrong because you're just reinventing the wheel. But for me, and I tell my audiences this all the time, the responsibility is the antidote to overwhelm. So if you're feeling,
Responsibility is the antidote to overwhelm.
yeah,
Okay.
so if you're feeling totally overwhelmed and I don't know what to do and I'm never going to get it together, it's like you said earlier, sit down and figure out what can you do?
Mhm.
What bill can you get rid of? What product can you sell? What person can you talk to? Do you have to cut expenses? Do you need to get a part-time job? In
Yeah.
the beginning, a lot of people hired me to, I have to be careful how to put this. A lot of people wanted to hire me as to do strategic planning.
Okay.
And I do strategic planning, and it's not the funnest thing I've ever done. But in the beginning, even though I wanted to do more the inspirational stuff, it
Sure.
paid the flipping bills. So you
Uh-huh.
do those sessions. And now that I'm way more confident, now I have fun doing strategic planning because I do it Sandy style. Right? And people enjoy the session. So
Yeah.
Back then I was doing the standard cookie cutter drive, but that's what they wanted me to do and it covered the bills. So
Yeah.
sometimes the action is I need to get that part-time job or I need to do whatever to get me to that next level. This it doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. We love to
Yeah.
blow it up to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
right? It's just what and one of Ed Milet's, well, I guess I'm not sure of how many books he has out, but his one book is called One More. Do one more. And I swear to God, I hear Ed's voice every time I'm working out because, I'll do my set of 12 and it's like, but if I do one more,
Yeah.
right? And now
Yeah.
that's, in my opinion, dangerous. You got to be careful with that because the one
Yes.
more mindset can lead to burnout and you're doing
Yes.
too much,
Obsessive behavior. Yes.
right? So,
Going
but
too
if I
far.
can send one more email, that's
And
only
then
going to
quit.
take 10 minutes. That's, yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Right.
Long as you're
I
not doing
want to quit
30
now.
more. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to quit right now. But I'll do one more and then I'll quit for the day.
It is such, and we talked about this in the first episode, that entrepreneurship is the biggest personal growth
Oh yeah.
journey that anyone could go on. And I had to stop underestimating what I could do, like stop letting myself off. Well, I
Hmm.
sent three emails today. That's enough for one day. I took action. You work for a flipping half hour. Who's building a business doing that? That's not, give me a break.
Yeah.
But we were talking about this when it comes to reading. We're
Hmm.
going to get to our book recommendations in a second. I I have put read. I've heard so many people say I read for an hour every day. Okay, I'm going to read for
Sure.
an hour every day. I am not reading for an hour every day. I don't know where they find the hour, but it's not in my mindset. But I
Yeah.
can do 20 minutes every day. And I
Yeah.
do 20 minutes. And guess what? It's the baby steps. And I've had
Yep.
people say, you only read for 20 minutes. You obviously haven't seen my schedule or how many
Hmm.
things I got to finish, but
Yep.
it feels great. And I set a timer because I'm going to do the 20 minutes, even though I want to, like, after 5, and the books get read. And,
Yes.
and, and I find with my little ADHD brain
Hmm.
that reading just for 20 minutes, I absorb what was in those 10 to
Yeah.
20 pages way more than if I read for an hour and forced myself to.
That's right. Yes.
Right? It's like bite-sized chunks that actually make it in. And it's like, wow, that made sense. I can use that. So,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No,
yeah,
it's it's the difference. It's the difference between forcing yourself to doing something and being open to getting information and learning things. I'm just trying to pull up my book that I'm working on because in
yeah,
addition to the book we're recommending, we're also going to share a book that we're reading, and I'm going through my Kindle right now to see because I am one of these people that I literally have. Okay, so I have in the uncollected section on my Kindle, that's where I have the books that I am currently reading. Right
yep.
now there is 142 in there. So I need to pick one. I need to pick one and finish it. And I think that's going to be a goal for my vacation is to finish a bunch of these
Oh, nice.
books.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I'm going to pick one, not the everyday rice cooker, that's, that kind of doesn't, cookbooks don't really count as reading.
I'm thinking no.
Yeah.
Probably asking the wrong person,
So
but
of the 142, there's probably maybe 3 or 4 cookbooks that are on the go. But yeah. Okay.
okay.
So do you have your book
I
recommendation for this
do.
time?
I
All right, let's
do.
hear it.
And actually, it's kind of funny because the last episode I recommended Wolfpack by Abby
Mhm.
Wambach, right? And I said that was amazing. And I didn't plan this. I just went to my bookcase and I was like, okay, which one of these just like blew me away and made a difference? And, if anyone's going to read one book, this is what I would recommend. And I grabbed Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Okay.
Now, what is amazing about this? Glennon Doyle is Abby Wambach's partner.
Woo!
This book, so what does it say on the back here? Untamed will liberate women, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I believe Glennon was born to write this book just this way at this moment in history. It is phenomenal. It is. If you have ever
Interesting.
felt like you're trapped in a box, that you can't be you, that maybe what you're doing, you're not even sure that's what you wanted to be doing, um, it is Glennon's story. So it's personal, it's real, it's not pretty. Millie, you would love her because she like swears and she's just
I relate
she's
to that. Yes.
real, right? And she made some hard decisions, and she definitely had some battles. She actually struggled with alcohol
Okay.
because that's what she was using to deny how much she didn't like her life, right?
That's a lot.
So
Happens a lot. Yeah.
and I read this because I mean Oprah loves this book. Every TV host that I've seen fell in love with this book. I super highly recommend it. And before I show you what I'm reading right now, the
Now
quote
we should
for
make sure
today,
that we put our book recommendations in the show notes as well.
I can totally do that.
All right.
The
We should do that.
quote for today for me is from this book because
All right.
I've got highlights all through it. So I just kind of opened it and found one. In this chapter, she's talking about being brave, right?
Okay.
Which I know so many women struggle with.
Yes.
And what it says is whether you're brave or not cannot be judged by people on the outside. Sometimes being brave requires letting the crowd think you're a coward. Sometimes being brave means letting everyone down but yourself.
Oof. And that's a scary thing, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty
And
profound for sure.
that is my life. Like it's just because I'm finally living my life and it doesn't I don't care if you think I should live here or that I should run my business this way or whatever. That
Yep.
doesn't matter. Like you run your life in your lane and I'll run mine and we can meet in the middle.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so
Cool.
what did you pick? As
So my recommendation for this week is a personal development classic. This is called Getting Things Done: The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. David
ooh,
Allen wrote it. This one's been around a long time. And you can see I've had this one a long time. It's
yep,
got all kinds of post-it notes and little tape flags and all kinds of things. And this is one of those books that will give you a ton of ideas and ways that you can organize things and get action actually done. I don't use everything in this book, but there's a couple of things that I've picked up on that I've used for years and that have been incredibly helpful in helping me just sort of stay ahead of the mess and the
yeah.
drama and all the things that come with life. So I highly recommend reading that. Um, Getting Things Done, David Allen, a classic.
Have you ever done that like four boxes kind of thing? If you ever end up with a to-do list that's like 100 things and you know you're not doing that. So the
Right. The
urgent and
urgent
important,
and important.
urgent, what
Yes.
important. I've done
Yeah.
that so many times and it works in that you get the urgent and important done. Like it really helped me to clear the fog, right? Yes, I
Yeah.
want to organize my storage room.
Do I
That
need to do
is
that right now?
helping
Yeah.
nothing, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
back to organizing the
Um,
filing cabinet like we were talking
well,
about before.
and
Yeah.
you know what? It's also back to all of those entrepreneurs, especially with the whole lockdown who started working from home.
Mhm.
And I know people that, well, if there were dishes in the sink in the kitchen, it would drive me nuts. I wouldn't be able to work.
Yeah,
It's like,
whatever.
I can tell how successful and busy I'm being out in my career by the state of my home. Because when the fog clears and I've finished that last event, I kind of turn around and it's like, exactly when did the
Holy
bomb go off?
cow.
Exactly. And it's like, and I think now's the time to deal with this. So it's never unhealthy,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really don't care.
Well, and this
Like,
is where the concept of balance falls
yeah,
apart. The idea that if we are perfectly balanced, then everything in our lives will be perfectly up to date and done all the time. And
yeah,
that, my friend, is BS,
Total BS.
because there's only so much time and energy and effort that you can put into one area at a time. You cannot, the very definition of the word priority is the one thing that is the most
Yeah.
important. You cannot have multiple priorities at the same time.
Yeah.
So if
And
you are 100% focused on what work is happening, something else is gonna fall away. And
yeah,
the trick is to keep some level of touching all the bases, making sure that you eat right and get sleep and get exercise and take care
yeah.
of your work and take care of your house. But you also have to accept that there's going to be seasons in your life where you're going to fall off a wagon or two, and that's okay.
And who are you doing it for? Like,
Yeah.
my home is clean and comfortable enough for me.
Yep.
And if someone, I can hear my mom, if someone were to come here and not be impressed, my mom would be the first to say, make sure that's the last time you invite them to your home. Because if they're
Yep.
there judging it, that's not a friend. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, do I clean before people come over? Of course.
I
But
just don't have people over. That's a much simpler way
right,
to go.
and my cats love it. Yes, there are cat toys everywhere. And by
Oh
the way,
yeah.
a shopping bag becomes a cat toy. It
Yes.
must do its mandatory 3 days on the floor before it gets picked up and put away. If you can't understand that, you probably shouldn't come visit. But anyways, now we get to share what we're reading right now.
Okay.
You shared, did you pick off your list which one you're reading right now?
I did. Well, so okay, this is what I'm reading right now, but I'm not sure I'm going to recommend it yet, and that's
Okay.
the thing. So
Yeah, and
I'm
that's the
reading,
difference.
right?
We're kind of just
So yeah,
judging these right now or
this
absorbing
is
them.
what I'm working on and
Yeah.
thinking about. So this one is Rachel Rodgers, We Should All Be Millionaires: A Woman's Guide to Earning More, Building Wealth, and Gaining Economic Power. So sounds great. I am absolutely on board with the premise. Um, but I've just barely started. I picked it up like 2 days ago.
Okay.
So I don't know if I can recommend it yet, because sometimes a lot of these personal finance books, especially if they're written for women, can be either too much or not enough, or giving bad advice, or giving
Yeah.
advice that's only relevant to a very small selection of people. And I understand. I mean, the idea of writing a personal finance book that is going to be the book for everybody is like, come on, it's not possible. You know, the wealthy barber is not for
Yeah.
everyone. I don't think
Yeah.
it's not for me. It's not for my clients, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
I'm
So,
pretty sure
but
I own that, and I know I haven't opened it.
and there you go. So
Yeah.
yes, I am reading this, and I will report back when I'm done with it. And we will see. We'll see what comes out of it that could be valuable.
Which reminds me, and you're probably going to have to remind me of this because it's going to ADHD out of my head in 3
All
seconds.
right.
But I have a book, which is probably going to be my recommendation next time, which I thought was absolutely flippin' amazing, written by a very well-to-do woman entrepreneur giving advice. I
Mhm.
thought it was phenomenal. I would love to get you to read it because I would love to because you have the know-how in that area, right? She
Okay.
could be saying something that's total BS, and I'm going, wow, what a great idea. But you would know, like, that's not actually going to work, right?
Okay.
So that's the book I think I'm going to kick over to you. I actually also think I own the book that's the counterbalance to the one you just mentioned.
Okay.
It's something about um, the successful that chose to stay small. So it's people
Interesting.
that
Not ringing a
run,
bell immediately, but okay.
and I'm totally murdering the title, and I haven't read it yet, but it's
Okay.
the businesses that are successful and thriving, but they didn't ever want to become big corporations. They didn't want to have 200 people staff.
I'm like that.
Right? I am
Yeah.
totally like that, which is why I picked up the book, but I haven't read it yet, so I can't recommend it. You are going to die when I show you what I'm reading.
Okay.
And
What are
I
you
was
reading?
just on a trip and had to spend time
In the airport. Yeah.
wait in airports and all this.
Oh my goodness. Men, Masculinity, and the Indian Act. That looks like work, frankly.
Well,
Well,
and
for
actually,
you,
you
it
know
is
what?
work, but
It
if
is
it's well
actually an
written, that can be
incredibly
fascinating.
easy read, which I
Wow.
was impressed. I was thinking it was going
Okay.
to be really academic, and
Yep.
it's not. And I haven't read a lot of it yet, But whoop, knock that little thing off my mic again. Um, the premise is that so often when you look at Canadian history,
Mhm.
is it racism or is it sexism
It's probably a little of both a
intertwined?
lot of the time. Yeah.
And there is literal examples of legislation where basically the courts or the government wanted it had to be one or the other,
Yeah.
right? And it, which is ridiculous because it was both, right? So,
Yeah.
and I touched on this how the nations were, many of them were matriarchal and how that was taken
Yeah.
over. So that's where that men and masculinity comes in and how it's built right into the Indian Act. So
Mhm.
a lot of stuff I knew because obviously my work. I
Yeah.
love the way it's presented in this book. So I don't know if
Okay.
I'll recommend it on our podcast because obviously it's very specific to my work. But it's so far, I am really like, I usually read one or two pages and it's like, I don't want to read. I'm reading this one. This one I
Yeah.
know I will finish. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's the yeah, I mean, if you can find a book on a topic that's that dense, like that
yeah,
requires so much nuance to really be able to grasp it and to have and to be honest, to if you're coming to it with a lot of background knowledge and
yeah,
experience, you're going to appreciate a book like that a lot more than I would. But if you can honestly say that it is an easy and, for lack of a better word, relaxing read, that really says
yeah.
something for the author.
Yeah, like I said, it didn't feel like work at all. It was like,
Yeah.
"Hmm, what? Okay." Like, and there were things that even I, the slant. And the other thing I love about this, and this is going to make me sound horrible, but I hope everyone understands my point. It's written by a guy. And I was
Okay.
like the self-awareness, right? Just that
Yeah.
he can see that even as a man, this was not a good thing, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that really impressed me because obviously, as women, we
Yeah.
can talk about these things, but for a man to have that level of self awareness, I was like, whoa, I'm
Is
actually
he an indigenous
impressed.
man?
He is an indigenous man that
Okay.
was denied status because of the masculinity in the Indian Act,
Okay, so
right?
he's
So
skin in
he
the game.
is, yeah, and he definitely felt the results.
Yes.
And one
Okay.
of his points is we often talk about how unfair it is to the women, but it's actually unfair to indigenous peoples
It's unfair to
because the
everybody. Yeah.
offspring, the male offspring, get caught up in it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Fascinating.
so yay! I
Yeah.
did my quote. Did you do your quote? You didn't do your
I
quote.
didn't do my quote. So yes, so Sandy noticed that on if you're watching this on video, that on the back wall behind my desk here, I have a quote. It's in French, and the well, I'll try to read it in French, and I apologize for my accent. J'ai décidé d'être heureux parce que c'est bon pour la santé. It's a Voltaire quote, and the rough English translation is, "I have decided to be happy today because it is good for my health." And I'm sure I butchered the French, but that's what I take it
I
to
was
mean in
actually
English.
really impressed with your French. So like I was
I
like,
speak, I took 3 years of French in high school, and it's reduced itself to the point where I say I have restaurant French. I can read a menu in French, I can order a meal in French. Beyond that, don't count on me to find anything.
gosh, I love that. That's amazing. So, yeah. Well, my dad was French, so anytime I hear the accent or whatever, it's like, oh, I love that, right? But
Ah,
yeah, that was really good. Way to go, you.
merci.
So I guess we are coming to the end of the episode. Next time, do we remember what the tea is, girl?
I'm counting on you to remember that you're the one who came up with the acronym.
I have to open up my oh duh, that's because it hasn't changed. We're gonna have fun next. I think both of us are experts in this field. The
Okay.
T in the PATH acronym is tenacity. In other words,
Oh,
don't give up.
we have talks. We can talk about that.
Exactly.
Tenacity.
So how long have you been in business doing?
Well, in this fourth iteration of my career, I've been since 'I'll say 2020, basically.
Okay.
So four years that I've
Okay.
built this block of my business.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
But
in
you've
some
got
ways that's kind of it makes me it's a new business, although I'm not a new business person in that sense because I've done this 3 times before, and then my
which
health
is
got and then I changed jobs, and then I had a business relationship that fell apart, and stuff happened, and here I am again.
Yeah. And you know what, though? Like anyone who goes into business has a skill in whatever area they're going into business in, right?
Right.
Like, otherwise, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You're just into torturing yourself? I don't know. So,
Some of us are.
right, and that's it. You should unpack that. But it's another
Yeah.
episode.
Tenacity and therapy, perhaps.
You pick the tea you need. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again for yet another episode of the New Path podcast, all about empowering women. Millie, you are amazing. I love hanging out with you.
Right back at you, babe. See you next time.
Until next time. Bye bye.